Copy that. Thank you. Yes, we heard that as well. And that was Jamie back at the desk. She was just confirming with me what we initially heard on the scanner was that this driver was wanted for reckless driving and was also possibly wanted for driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol. A pursuit that kicked off maybe about 10 to 15 minutes ago. It made its way all the way here to the 101 freeway and the 405 from the Malibu area. Because of the speeds that this person is traveling, he's been able to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time. In terms of what traffic is looking like here in the area, let me widen out. I'll show you the 101 freeway. Both east and westbound sides here, or north and south of the 101, people refer to them by both east or south here on the southbound or on the 101 freeway. And it looks like traffic is relatively light. The driver continuing to travel here at about 90 miles an hour. And he had a chance here to get on the 405 freeway, but it looks like he's going to continue here on the 101. Go ahead, Jack. Thank you, Jack. That was Jack Noyes there on our assignment desk, giving me some additional information. I initially called this truck perhaps something referring to a T-Rex. That was the only description that we had off of it. So based off of the research that Jack was able to do back at the station, T-Rex seems to be right for this type of vehicle. And this is a very heavy vehicle. We're still trying to figure out exactly how many tons, but it is, again, very heavy and way too heavy for the CHP to attempt a pit maneuver. They tried the spike strip, but again, this car has 6 tires, so a spike strip is going to have a difficult time deflating this many tires. So even though we understand that he may have run one over at one point, we have seen no effect of that. He is still traveling at a high rate of speed. You see him here 75 miles an hour. And maybe slowing down here a little bit, 101 at Van Nuys Boulevard. It is a T-Rex, yes. Yes, Saro, it is. So that was my pilot there, Saro Garabetti, and he's actually the one that knew some information about this particular vehicle and was able to share that with me once we saw what type of car it was, and that did help with our research on the car. Now, this pursuit continuing here, 101, he may be exiting at Van Nuys. Let's see what he does. Woodman, but we saw him try to exit before, and then he made an erratic maneuver to get it back on the freeway. But let's see, it looks like he is set up to get off at Woodman from the 101 freeway. Correct, Jamie, they would not. So Jamie at the assignment desk there was just bringing up the issue of the pit maneuver again, and this vehicle is just way too large. They don't have a vehicle large enough to compare to this one, and it would be very difficult to perform an effective pit maneuver. Continuing though here on Woodman, northbound Woodman, coming away from the 101 freeway. He is running red lights, and I actually see something in the back, so I'm going to try to zoom in there and see if I can see what that is. Perhaps a bike, perhaps some sort of like a bike, yeah, like a foldable bike perhaps, or a very small bike. But yeah, it looks like he has a bicycle there in the bed of the truck. Coming up here on up to Chandler from Woodman. He may be, let's see, what is he doing? He's gonna make a turn, gonna go westbound on Chandler. And if you're wondering how many people are in the vehicle, at this point it's unclear. But with it being, you know, this truck-style vehicle, My guess would be that at most it could fit about 4 people. But again, at this point, it's unclear how many people may be inside. A driver that was wanted initially for reckless driving and a possible DUI is continuing to lead the California Highway Patrol on a pursuit now on surface streets here off of Chandler. Fortunately, he has slowed down his speeds, which is great considering how fast he was going before. At one point when he was on the freeway, he was going as high as 100 miles an hour. And when you have something of this magnitude, this heavy of a vehicle coming at you on the freeway at 100 miles an hour, it is incredibly dangerous. He just made that U-turn though and is now heading the other way on Chandler, so he will be going back towards Woodman here in just a moment, heading eastbound. You see the light there on him, that's the night sun from the police helicopter. He's coming up to a red. I'm really concerned that he's running red lights because this vehicle is so large, it is so heavy. If he hits anyone else, I can't even imagine what would happen to that car. This vehicle is a lot larger than what we would typically see in a police pursuit. I mean, the car has 6 tires. Just think about that for a moment. Some of the things that normally would come into play just are not going to happen this time. The spike strip didn't work, already tried it. Pit maneuver, not going to happen. So at this point, all the police can hope for is that the driver will just come to a stop, come to his senses, and bring this all to an end. Or with a vehicle this large, it doesn't get very good gas mileage. So perhaps it'll be a situation where he'll run out of gas, and that'll bring the end to this pursuit. But for now, here, Woodman and Burbank. Really no traffic to speak of. I'm listening to the police helicopter overhead. He's calling out the conditions as he goes. And the driver here with a red light, but going right through it. Fortunately, really no other vehicles there, and he's able to continue on here. Woodman with a cross of Bessemer, just short of 60 miles an hour. Coming up to Victory here on Woodman. Coming up to a red light. This is what I'm fearing here, that he's going to run a red light and there's going to be cross traffic. But fortunately, there just made a turn. No other vehicles got in his way. Again, a pursuit that started with the Sheriff's Department out of Malibu. They spotted this driver. He was driving recklessly. They thought that perhaps he was under the influence. So they attempted to pull him over, but the pursuit was on. He led them to the 101 freeway at Las Virgenes, where the California Highway Patrol got behind the car. The CHP took over. LA County Sheriff's Department backed off. And after some time on the southbound side of the 101 freeway, the driver exited, and he is now on surface streets here, Victory and Varna. You can see that this is a residential area. It's unclear if this is an area that is familiar to him. Usually the police department will also run the plates on the car, so they'll be able to get the registration information to see where the car is registered to. At this point, I haven't heard that happen, so I'm not sure where the car may come back to, because what we do often see is that pursuits tend to return to an area that the driver is familiar with, perhaps in an attempt to run into his home, run into a friend's home, drive into a parking structure. And by doing that, also the driver knows where the dead ends are, and he's not going to drive himself into a dead end. For now, though, here Van Owen with a cross of Sunny Slope. And he may be Yeah, he's pulling into a little strip mall here. So he just did it there to get through the area, not because he was going to stop. And if you look in the back, there is something there. We identified it as a bicycle. And he seems to be weaving a little bit, perhaps losing control a bit. Or he might just be messing with them, might just be toying with the officers. Yeah. Initially, this driver was, the police attempted to pull him over for reckless driving and for possibly being under the influence, but for someone who is possibly under the influence, he's been driving pretty well for the most part, sticking to his lane. It's a larger vehicle. It's not as easy to operate as what most of us are used to driving. So for someone that may be under the influence, he's been driving pretty well. Of course, except for the fact that he's been running red lights and speeding. Coming up to Sherman Way here. Very light traffic there as that driver pulls over to allow the pursuit vehicle to pass him. This is not a situation where you would want to get involved in this pursuit. We have seen that sometimes in covering these things, where good Samaritans think that they're doing the right thing by trying to stop the vehicle. But if the police can't do it, then I would caution you strongly against trying to get involved in any way. Officers are obviously better equipped for these types of situations. You never know if the driver or somebody else inside could be armed or what their mindset might be. So you never want to get involved in a situation like that. Fortunately, we haven't seen that during the course of this pursuit. But coming up to a red light here and making a turn here, Van Nuys and Sherman Way. Now, we are in the Van Nuys area, and so with that said, the LAPD's Van Nuys division could take over this pursuit since we are no longer on the freeway. The California Highway Patrol, it's really not their jurisdiction anymore, so they could hand it off to the LAPD if they wanted to. At this point, it's unclear if the LAPD is going to get involved, but that is on the table. It is an option. Northbound on Van Nuys. Coming up to Keswick and is going to be making a westbound turn onto Keswick. Wow. Thank you. So that was Jack Noyes at the assignment desk, continuing to give me information as he and our assignment desk get it back at Universal City. What he was telling me is that this vehicle, like you might have guessed based off of the way it looks, it is a custom vehicle. It's got 6 wheels. It's possibly referred to as a T-Rex. It can weigh several tons. At this point, it's unclear exactly how much this one might weigh, but it's also a very costly vehicle. It could range into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly. And as far as we know, it's not a stolen. This was not the original reason why the LA County Sheriff's Department attempted to pull this person over. Rather, it was because the driver was driving recklessly, and they thought that he was possibly under the influence. Now, that is what led to the pursuit, but this person also traveled at very high speeds on the freeway, as high as 100 miles an hour at one point. Now that he's on surface streets, he really has slowed his roll. You see the speeds there on our speedometer in his Chopper 4 Alpha, basically going with the speed of traffic. And in terms of traffic, there really isn't much here through this area. And just as I said that he speeds up, it's almost like he heard me. He just hit the gas here on Sherman Way going westbound. Coming up to Kester. Again, one of my big concerns here is that he's running red lights, and you see situations like that where he's cutting in front of other vehicles that have the right of way, and it really could lead to a dangerous situation. Again, this vehicle is very heavy, it's very large, and I can't imagine what would happen if he hit a smaller vehicle here on the road. And literally, unless it's a big rig, almost every other car that is on the road is going to be smaller than this thing. Again, a pursuit out of the LA County Sheriff's area of Malibu, now in the Van Nuys area. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to check the unit here. Yeah, so that's still going to be the CHP, Jack. So perhaps LAPD is just not getting involved and they're going to let CHP. Yeah. Yeah, so now, like Sarah just noticed, the driver seems to be making a big circle. Now, from covering pursuits like this, we know that when drivers do that, it's often because they're looking for a place to run. It's an area that they're familiar with, and they're looking for a place to ditch the car and take off running. So we will be mindful of that as he continues driving here in the Van Nuys area. Now, I'm hearing from our assignment desk that the LAPD's Van Nuys division has decided not to take over the pursuit, and in that case, the California Highway Patrol will stay on it as the driver makes another turn here from Sherman Way. So I'm hearing that the helicopter that was overhead is switching out with another helicopter, and that second one will continue calling the pursuit. Sherman Way and Hazeltine, making a turn here on a Hazeltine. Heading northbound, coming away from Sherman Way. Now, one of the things that we initially brought up, because we thought that one of the things that would bring this pursuit to an end was if this person ran out of gas. Because it is a large vehicle, it likely doesn't get great gas mileage, but my pilot, Sarah Garabetian, was saying that this vehicle likely will still get about 500 miles, even though it doesn't get very good miles per gallon. It is a vehicle that we believe is very pricey, perhaps in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's very heavy, several tons. We don't know exactly how many, but just looking at it, you can tell it's heavy. It's got 6 wheels, and at one point, the Sheriff's Department threw out a spike strip, and we believe that it was a successful hit. However, the vehicle has 6 wheels, so it has still continued to move along just fine. And we see somebody running there. I believe that person was just running out of the way, or he may have gotten dropped off. Our view of the vehicle is obstructed at that point, so it's unclear if a passenger did get out. But there was a tree blocking our view, so I couldn't see the passenger side. But yeah, the vehicle didn't stop, so we're not sure. We don't think that that guy was in the vehicle, but there is that possibility as the driver continues here on Woodman coming away from Wyandotte. Oh, look at these evasive maneuvers. It's just so concerning because his car is so much bigger than everybody else's. And when he's cutting in front of cars and when he's running these red lights, that's when you don't know what can happen. And you could be driving on the street, minding your own business on this Wednesday evening, and then this guy comes right at you, wrong side of the road in some situations, or runs a red light and cuts you off, and you know, we could possibly see a collision out of this, and that's really what is so concerning when you have a car of this magnitude running from police. And again, that police department at this point is going to be the California Highway Patrol, who took over this chase once the LA County Sheriff's Department relinquished it. Wow, look at that. Approaching Coldwater and gonna turn southbound on a Coldwater. Hard on the brakes here. I don't know why though, because there's really no, oh, it's because he's running the red light. That's why he's hard on the brakes. Look at that. We've seen him run several red lights, run stop signs, cut in front of other vehicles, wrong side of the road at times. Fast speeds, that's for sure. A driver who is wanted for reckless driving and possible DUI. Continuing to lead the California Highway Patrol on a pursuit and is going to go into the parking lot here for the Taco Bell, but I think he's just going to cut through. We've seen him do this once before, so we're kind of starting to learn his pattern at this point. And now on the sidewalk, he just took down a pole. Let's see if this is what does it for him, but I don't know. I think, you know what, I think his tire might have gotten flat. I think the front tire might be flat now after colliding with that pole. This is going to be Coldwater and Van Owen. This may be what eventually brings this to an end here. Felony stop in progress. At this point, I'm not seeing hands, so I'm not going to push in too much. Once we see the driver's hands, we'll feel a little more comfortable. We do see the door opening there, so this may be the end of things. And I'm seeing hands. It looks like this person is finally surrendering to authorities. It looks like he's wearing some sort of vest, a black vest with a long sleeve shirt and shorts. Hands up in the air, that's exactly what the California Highway Patrol wants to see. And now they are going to give him commands. They're going to be slow and methodical with their commands because they want to make sure that this person does not do anything that could potentially harm them. They're going to ask him to slowly start retreating towards them, and at some point they will in all likelihood have him show them his waistband to make sure that there's nothing on him that could potentially hurt them. That's typically what we see, but they may just have him get down on his knees and just take him into custody and search him after, which in this case I believe is what's going to happen as they approach the individual. They will get him in the handcuffs, they'll do a cursory search, and then now another team of officers is going to approach the vehicle. This vehicle had darkly tinted windows. It was difficult to see inside. You see the team of officers approaching now. And they're going to clear the vehicle, make sure nobody else is inside hiding. In some situations, there's sometimes children in the car who, of course, wouldn't follow the commands of the officers because they just wouldn't know to do that in a situation like this. So they're going to search through the vehicle. In this case, there's no trunk to the car like we've seen in other pursuits, so that's not going to come into play here. And I'm just waiting as I listen to the police scanner. I'm listening to get the code 4, which is the police code for everything is clear, everyone is in custody.